Hey everybody, Mountlover here, and I am so excited to be able to bring to you a full character walkthrough for this game and this character specifically. We're going to be taking a very thorough look at Yamcha, the strongest Z fighter himself. Lord Yamcha has made his appearance in Dragon Ball FighterZ, and let's go ahead and start out by pointing out some of his characteristics. So Yamcha is a very unconventional character, one of the most unconventional characters in the game, and that says a lot in a game with universal combos and universal properties on a lot of his moves. So Yamcha, he has a pretty weak low-high game. He does have some left-right mix-up potential in the form of his Wolf Fang Fist, which can mix up between left or right at like 2 points overall throughout the duration of the move. However, this left-right mix-up is very fake. On block, it's fake at least, and very interruptible with jabs, so you should never really have to worry about blocking or reacting to his mix-ups. You should just have to worry about interrupting them the majority of the time. He also has some of the lowest meterless solo damage output in the game due to the fact that he has no airborne smash hit capable heavies. His air heavy is just a normal hit. It will not cause a spike or a smash hit regardless of how you use it. And his air down heavy is a dive kick that cannot be comboed out of by conventional means. Are you still with me? You still there? Okay, now that it's just us, those of you who are still watching the video are either true Yamcha mains who will stick it through no matter what, or you know that there's more to the story than just Yamcha's shortcomings. And so while Yamcha at first glance may appear like a relatively weak character, he has some unexpected strong suits that make some of his options some of the most powerful in the game. And let's get started with the most obvious one, his assist. While Wolf Fang Fist in and of itself is not a spectacular move, as an assist, it both comes out incredibly fast and leaves the opponent locked down for a lot longer than other assists that come out in a comparable amount of time. So, for instance, Trunks is considered to have one of the faster assists in the game. It's just barely slower than Yamcha's, but if I were to set the dummy to guard, you can clearly see that it has significantly less hit stun than Yamcha's Wolf Fang Fist. Or block stun, I should say, in this case. And this makes Yamcha's assist an invaluable pressure tool. Handle this. Regardless of who you're using, you can call Yamcha's assist and use it to make yourself incredibly plus, extraordinarily plus out of virtually any string. It also works very well as a combo extender for both grounded and catching the finishes of airborne combos. You can just perform any kind of combo and then call Yamcha to extend it. So, without even saying anything about Yamcha's moveset in and of itself, Yamcha is immediately a very strong pick for any team just purely because of his assist. And that's not the end of the story either. Yamcha also has the unique ability to use assists much more effectively than the majority of the cast can. And this ties into the fact that he has the unconventional air strings. His specialty is getting combos that are very close to the ground, mostly due to the fact that he does not actually have an air down heavy that launches. Instead, he's got that dive kick, which gives him the unique ability to re-ground himself much quicker than most other characters can. If not all other characters, considering that most dive kicks in the game have a lot longer startup than this one does. And so this allows Yamcha to... The fact that Yamcha can re-ground himself, when you touch the ground in this game, you regain some of the properties that you had lost in the middle of your combo, like your super dash and your double jump, which you can use for extensions. And so Yamcha can, with the help of assists, pull off some pretty amazing combos that involve multiple double jumps. And that's where his damage output really comes in. In addition, he can use assists on block to make some of his fake mix-ups, like the Wolfang Fist left-right, which is normally interruptible on block, into some real respectable mix-ups. And so, while Yamcha by himself is a bit of a weak character, he's got some surprising aspects to him that make him a force to be reckoned with, and give him some unique tools that literally nobody else has to quite the same extent. And I'll go over those in more detail as I go through his movesets. Alright, let's get started talking about Yamcha's normals. And when I talk about normals in this game, that's also going to include discussion of strings, because you sort of loop the two together in this game. This is a game where everything, if it combos, it chains. And so, talking about normals and talking about strings, they're sort of the same, one and the same. So, let's just go down the list. All of Yamcha's normals are safe on block, totally safe, except for his down heavy, his 2H. This is incredibly punishable. And as a matter of fact, this 2 heavy, it does cause an upwards smash hit, but only if you manage to connect with both hits.
Not even close.
And for the sake of scaling, this move actually does count as 2 independent hits. And they both do deal very respectable damage. So this down heavy does more damage than your typical down heavy will. However, when you are using this, you have to be aware of the risks. It moves forward very, very far. And the hitboxes there of where Yamcha's actually doing damage are on the tips of his feet, basically, on the soles of his feet. And so as you can see, they're very, very high up, those hitboxes. And so the first one will just barely reach grounded opponents, and the second one will always whiff grounded opponents. You have to hit with the first if you want to hit with the second, if your opponent is on the ground. And then when you're using this as an anti-air, it actually has no way of hitting opponents that are directly above Yamcha. So if somebody ends up somehow directly above you, really high up in the air, and they come super dashing down, if you try to anti-air with down heavy, it's almost never going to work. The super dash will whiff because all down heavies are completely invulnerable to jumping attacks, but you will not get a punish like 99% of the time. There may be some kind of timing, and there's some kind of very specific timing where you can connect from somebody coming straight down, but that's normally not what's going to happen. If somebody is coming down at you with a super dash from directly above the screen, you're better off trying to anti-air it with his quarter circle back light, his Gale Claws, than his down heavy. That being said, the down heavy does still work as a respectable anti-air in every other situation. If somebody's coming at you from directly across the screen or diagonally downwards, this will work pretty well. And it also stays active for quite a long time, so you don't have to worry about pressing it on reaction to a super dash and then having it whiff and then the super dash hitting you in recovery. That usually doesn't happen with Yamcha. Also, let's talk about Yamcha's auto combo strings. And for those of you not familiar with auto combos, basically everybody in the game has what's called an auto combo and what's called an auto combo string. And the latter of which is not really useful in high level play. The auto combo is just you keep mashing any button, either light, medium, or heavy, and the game will fill in the blanks for you and continue your combo. But the the auto combo string is a very specific tool that everybody has. And that is basically if you press light 3 times on the ground, you get a specific string that you can't otherwise access. And so this isn't even an auto combo. This is just your light string. Light, light, light. And everybody, most everybody has 2 unique moves as their second and third parts of their light auto combo string. And so this just like for everybody else, the first hit of the light auto combo is in fact a jab, and it will scale combos as a jab. So if you start a combo with this, it counts worth 2 hits, and so your combos will suffer from that point forward. However, the second hit, that counts as a medium, and so if you start with, and I'll demonstrate this with the vanish. Normal vanish does 850 damage. If I start with this opening jab into vanish, it does 680, which is scaled twice. That's scaled down to 80%. And then if I start with this intermediate hit, you'll see it does 765, which is scaled down to 90%, like normal. But it's not really super duper useful, this second hit. The third hit, however, just like for most other characters, is very, very useful in his auto combo string. Reason for that being that it is one of Yamcha's very few, very valuable tools that causes a smash hit. And so, if you want a smash hit into a super dash, you've got two options with Yamcha pretty much. You've got down heavy, or you have got his light. And the light is actually specifically useful, as it is for most characters, for catching players coming down from a low to the ground vanish. So with Yamcha, you can do stuff like, and then catch them as they're coming down with that light auto combo. And as you can see, the combo counter turned blue there, which meant that I mistimed it a little bit, and that was actually techable. But if your timing is better than mine, then you can in fact catch with that, make it a true combo, and extend your combos that way with the vanish. It's not, I would not say that that's practical when playing online, just because the timing on that is so strict and there's no obvious cue that unless you've got some kind of like muscle memory mnemonic for it, 2 frames of delay, just 2 frames of variable delay will be enough to throw you off of getting consistent execution on that kind of thing. But it is important to know, especially if you plan on playing exclusively locally. Offline, it's totally a viable way to get some maximum damage combos. And I'll demonstrate some stuff using that vanish into light auto combo in the combo demonstration at the end of this. So I mentioned earlier that Yamcha struggles with his high-low game, and part of the reason for that is the fact that his let's go ahead and demonstrate this. His crouching light, his 2L, is actually not a low, and this is the case for quite a few players in the game. You sort of have to play it by ear as to who has a low 2L and who doesn't. Trunks is also not a low. Vegeta's, however, is very visually obviously a low.
What?
As you can see there. And some characters do have 2Ls that are punches that are still lows, and you just sort of have to keep an eye out for those. But Yamcha's is not, and his only low, in fact, is his 2 medium. And this looks like a slide. It doesn't have any forward momentum on it. And it has a pretty pathetic range when compared to some other characters. So let's pull Trunks back out here. As you can see, Trunks has a slide. He's one of the characters blessed with one of those. And Vegeta, his also has sort of short range, but as you can see, it's forward advancing, which makes it very useful. So Yamcha's is actually a pretty bottom tier 2 medium when it comes to the whole spectrum of down mediums available to the entire cast. Matter of fact, if you were to try and say... do something like instant air heavy into down medium, you'll see that it barely reached there, but in a lot of cases, it just won't reach at all, depending on your distance. So that's not something that you can really consider to be super duper consistent or reliable, I should say is the good word. So usually after an instant air dash normal, you're safer using jabs, although if you are confident in your spacing, you can go ahead, absolutely combo directly into that 2 medium. It does work, and I recommend doing it actually off of instant air dash medium, seeing as how his instant air dash heavy is a little bit cumbersome. It's got more range than his instant air dash medium, but it will never cross up, and it's got a lot more startup there. It's a lot easier to see. And since both of them do actually combo on hit into his crouching medium, I recommend you go for instant air dash medium almost 100% of the time. Unless you are about at this range where everything will whiff, and you need that extra range. Alright, so speaking of strings, let's talk about the money string here. And this is what most characters like to use as their bread and butter string, is light, 2 medium, medium. So Yamcha's is pretty bog standard here. He can... Everything here is a true block string, except for this 2 medium into 5 medium. That part forces a frame trap. And it's a little bit of a liability, because you want to confirm the hit after that 2 medium. And so you want to be able to do that into 5 medium in order to visually confirm whether or not your opponent got opened up low or not. However, it's just a safe deflect point for Yamcha. After you block this 2 medium, you can safely start mashing deflect, and there's not very much that your opponent can do against it aside from, say, bait it or go immediately into a Dragon Rush. Additionally, to counteract this, Yamcha can delay his strings and force them into frame traps if he wants to. And so you can delay the initial light, and if you delay that enough, that forces a frame trap. And then additionally, the second part of the light, you can delay that enough to frame trap into the slide. And so if you, or into the sweep, I should say. So if you want to put that frame trap a little bit earlier in your string, you can do that. And that can be useful if you want to start baiting reflects or start baiting level 3s. Specifically, if you want to start baiting deflects, sticking that frame trap here in this light is very important, because if you ever see that get deflected, all of a sudden you can just choose to stop doing that frame trap, because you know they're mashing back and S here. And then they'll get opened up by the low, because you can't mash deflect and block low at the same time. And so that's what I recommend for trying to open people up with Yamcha specifically, is you delay those first 2 lights whenever you use them. And if you ever notice that you start getting deflected here, then forego that delay and immediately do this. And that's almost guaranteed to open up somebody that is trying to mash deflect out of that string. Unless their timing is impeccable with that deflect. Which I'd believe offline, but online, with delay, I would not believe that somebody's timing is that good. So I already mentioned that Yamcha has a pretty unconventional toolset, and possibly the most unconventional part of his toolset is his standing heavy. It is not a tool that you can use to extend combos. Usually with most characters, if you get a hit, you can visually confirm that into your heavy button, regardless of the situation, and it'll convert into a combo. But Yamcha's serves an entirely different purpose. Yamcha's 5 heavy, as you can see, it performs this kind of backflip into a horizontal smash hit. And let's quickly demonstrate the smash hit there. So as you can see there, it is good for starting combos. However, it is not useful for extending them. It does have the backwards momentum on this actually does back up Yamcha a little bit faster than his backdash would. However, it is still not super duper useful. It doesn't back up fast enough to say, it doesn't back up fast enough to get you out of frame traps. So if I were to record Yamcha pulling that confirmed string on myself, then play it back, even if I'm mashing that heavy, it's not going to get me out of there. Same if I were to try and backdash. I'll just get hit, and if I mash heavy, as a matter of fact, I'll get completely counter hit. And so it's not really a tool that you can use to extend, to escape out of, to like BS your way out of frame traps the way that you can with, say, like Ed's backdash in Street Fighter V. You can't really do that. However, you can just press it and sort of escape situations where your opponent stops their string prematurely and you're not sure what they're going to do. Because when somebody puts you in this kind of situation where all of a sudden they stop pressing buttons, you can't really take your turn safely, because at any point during the recovery, they could always just bust out a special move, bust out an assist, or just do a delayed follow-up into another normal. And so 5 heavy comes in handy for situations like this, where you're not really sure whether you should start jabbing, whether you should keep blocking, whether you should deflect. This is just a third option that you have, where you can create some distance, come back in with a smash hit. And the wonderful thing about this 5 heavy is that it beats a lot of options. It beats a surprising amount of options. If your opponent starts jabbing, you can make their jabs whiff, and even if they jab with perfect timing, this 5 heavy has enough of a good enough hitbox and good enough priority in order to stuff it and get that smash hit. It'll beat a lot of normals clean, is what I'm trying to say. And you can sort of see that. I can't show hitboxes, unfortunately, but you can sort of see how far forward his palm goes when he dives forward. He lunges forward with that 5 heavy. It's also completely safe on block. You don't have to cancel this into anything. If you just do 5 heavy and then down back, there's literally nothing that the opponent can do that'll be a guaranteed punish. Which is very unique, actually. A lot of characters do not have just explicitly safe heavies like that. However, even if you wanted to cover yourself a little bit more and create some distance, well, then let's start talking about Yamcha's S. His standard Ki Blast. This is not super duper useful for pressure. It's obviously useful for escaping situations, which is one of Yamcha's strong suits. He's very good at running away. And so if you ever wanted to, say, even though you're safe, you didn't want to be at this distance and negative in your opponent's face, you didn't want to succumb yourself to have to eat that kind of pressure against somebody, then you can always cancel that into a Ki Blast. And this is actually a tight block string, so there's absolutely nothing that your opponent can do to chase you down from this. And as you saw earlier, I shot that Ki Blast a little bit higher than usual. That's actually Yamcha's down S. You just hold down, press S. He shoots it a little bit higher than usual, and this can be useful for not only creating distance, but also just getting a read on, say, like an instant air dash. If you know your opponent's going to try and pursue with that, say at the start of the round, or just when you're at this distance in neutral, you can throw out one of these down S's, and that will just sort of throw them off their game a little bit. That being said, you'll notice that even with a standard grounded S, Yamcha sort of, he gains a little bit of height here when he's doing this little mid-air backdash. And that's actually a little bit problematic. This means that Yamcha cannot use this tool versus characters with lower profiles. I'm not sure if I have any small characters picked here. Yeah, Vegeta's a little bit too tall because you can still hit the top of his hair. But if you're up against somebody who does legitimately have a low profile, like say Android 18, and you try to do something like this, you'll find that this Ki Blast just goes right over their heads. So be very careful when utilizing this to make yourself safe versus certain smaller characters like Teen Gohan, Android 18, possibly Kid Buu as well. Additionally, I believe most characters, if they're crouching, this will also sail directly above their heads, with the exception of the bigger bodied characters like Android 16 or Nappa. So yeah, just keep that in mind. That is a very character-specific tool, and although it's very powerful for escaping and avoiding pressure, it is not something you can depend on 100% of the time. I talked about Yamcha's down heavy, however, I neglected to mention that, just like most down heavies, it is cancelable on block. And so the only thing that Yamcha has that you can actually cancel this into is his Gale Claws. And even if you whiff the second hit, it still becomes cancelable for the entirety of its duration. But this is still not super duper useful. The only reason why you would ever want to utilize the cancelability on that move is if you were to try and cancel it into a swap to avoid getting punished on a blocked down heavy. Alternatively, if you're down to Yamcha as your last character and you want to avoid getting punished off this down heavy, like the Plague, if you say you're one hit away from death or one confirm away from death, then what you can do is you can actually cancel that into the heavy version of Gale Claws. And that won't make you safe, but it can avoid a punish just by virtue of the fact that it'll make a lot of down heavies whiff. And that can get you out of pressure, but again, very fake. You should, it's very much a gimmicky kind of way to escape a punish, and you're spending a bar to do it. So I would not recommend that unless you are seriously in a bind. It's pretty much the equivalent of vanishing on block. Alright, let's take a moment to talk about Yamcha's air normals. So I took a look at his instant air dashes already, and his instant air dash heavy and his instant air dash medium I already talked about. If you were to instant air dash light, it has sort of the same properties as his medium. However, it has a little bit less range, and so if you're trying to cross up, you're still better off using that medium. Again, while all of his air normals, while his instant air medium will still combo into that 2 medium for the high-low, you'll find that whiffing a lot of the time. And so, although the high-low mix-up is there, I would still feel much safer trying to confirm into jabs if you were to connect with with any kind of weird jumping medium. There's also a very specific height and distance where you can actually get this this jumping medium to cross while not having the animation turn around. It's not consistent in the slightest. I've not been able to replicate this on purpose, but it does happen off of a slightly, not an instant air dash, but off a slightly higher dash. You saw me get it there. So this could be something that, if you want to look into it or create setups for it, can be pretty useful in mixing people up. There we go. However, I would not depend on it just in neutral. You need some pretty damn good timing and movement in order to get that to work. Alright, lastly, in the air, we've got Yamcha's dive kick. And as I mentioned earlier, this dive kick is a little bit faster than everybody else's dive kicks for the most part. However, it can't be comboed out of conventionally. And that means you can't link or chain any normals after it connects with the dive kick just because of the fact that it's got too much recovery. However, it is cancelable, which means that if you hit shallow enough, you can get some stuff like dive kick into medium Gale Claws, which will get you a sliding hard knockdown. That's pretty rewarding for a dive kick. If you are not so confident in the ability to make it shallow, then you can spend the bar and go for heavy, which is a lot more forgiving because of the forward momentum on that heavy Gale Claws. Additionally, if you want, you can call an assist as you're doing the dive kick, and that'll allow you to combo out as well. So as you can see, Trunks works pretty well there. Any one of the faster assists in the game, like Trunks, Frieza, Nappa, 16, Fat Boo, Ginyu, they should all pretty much work with slightly different timing. Matter of fact, Frieza might not work because of the fact that his assist goes a little bit too far. But the dive kick can be useful as a neutral tool if you know how to use it properly and how to make it shallow enough. Just bear in mind that it's not actually going to mix anybody up high-low because in fact you can block it any way you want. Alright, continuing talking about Yamcha's air normals, of course we've got his air S, which is the exact same as his grounded S, except for the fact that you can control the height on it. You can do an instant air S to go a little bit higher than he would on the ground, but a little bit lower than he would with the down S. Honestly, renders the down S a little bit obsolete here, since you can just jump back and use it anyways in the exact same way. You can also use that S out of a forward dash to sort of stall your momentum, which can really confuse some people when trying to cross them up. However, if you go too far, Yamcha will turn around and do the air S in the opposite direction. So you gotta be a little bit careful with that if you're trying to cross somebody up. And then, of course, we have got his air strings. And Yamcha's air strings are actually pretty powerful. They may not be the most damaging in the game, but they are very, very consistent. And what I mean by that is that, unlike a lot of other characters, you can almost always get that full medium, light, air string, no matter what situation you're in. There are very few situations in which, actually there's almost no situations in which that medium, light won't work.
Not even close.
The only times that I've ever had that drop are times when you're in the middle of a really long combo and you're starting to hit the hit stun scaling, the hit stun decay limit. In addition, you can also get medium, light, medium, heavy. And that heavy, you can only combo into heavy Gale Claws unless you're in the corner. Let's quickly demonstrate that. If I'm in the corner, then medium will connect, but only in the corner. Normally that whiffs just because medium doesn't have that same amount of forward momentum that heavy does. Alright, and I've been showing off Yamcha's special moves all video long, but I haven't actually gone over them yet, so let's go ahead and get started with Yamcha's Kamehameha. The Kamehameha's classic. It works just like any other beam special. It's a little bit slower than some other beams, and so a lot of situations that, like say, Trunks can use his Masenko to cover his strings on block to make them safe. Yamcha can't really do that. So if you were thinking to maybe do a string in a Kamehameha to make that safe. That doesn't actually work very well for Yamcha. Next up, we have got the Wolfang Fist Gale Claws. And I'm just going to call this Gale Claw or Gale Claws for short. And this can be performed either on the ground or in the air. You do not need to Tiger Knee the input. It just comes out. In pretty much the same way regardless of where you are. And the medium and heavy versions of this move cause a hard knockdown. This is a sliding knockdown that you can convert into a super. The light version does not cause this hard knockdown. However, it is still useful in combos if you're planning on sticking 2 of these Gale Claws in one combo. If you combo out of the medium or heavy, you suddenly lose. You use up your hard knockdown. So if you want to save that hard knockdown for the end of a combo, you can combo into the light version on purpose, and then extend, and then use the medium or heavy and still get that sliding knockdown. I believe I've shown off already, but I'll just reiterate that the light version of Gale Claws is useful as an anti-air because of the fact that it travels forward the least, and it comes out like barely faster than the medium version. And in the air, you can almost always combo into a medium Gale Claws unless you are going off of a jumping heavy. In which case, you only get heavy Gale Claws. Unless you're in the corner, of course, in which case you can actually do... You can do the jumping heavy into lighter medium. Alright, the next move that we're going to be talking about is Yamcha's signature move, the Wolfang Fist. So let's jump right into talking about the differences between the different versions. So you've got the light, medium, and the heavy. So as you can see there, the light version is just your typical Wolfang Fist. This is the version that comes out if you do his assist. It's just a standard Wolfang Fist. It's got decent range. And it does a maximum of 5 hits. If you do the medium version, you get the special version that actually teleports behind. And so that could be useful for forcing a sort of left-right mix-up. Unfortunately, I mean, like, you never actually mix up between light and medium, because light just serves an entirely different purpose. If you're gonna mix up between, if you're gonna try and apply a left-right mix-up, you do it between medium Wolfang Fist and something like a 2 medium. There's no reason to have to go for light Wolfang Fist if you want to just stay in front. You can do anything. And then additionally, the heavy will do Wolfang Fist and then all of the follow-ups to Wolfang Fist just in sequence. And that looks like this. So let's talk about the follow-ups to Wolfang Fist. So you saw all of them sort of in sequence there, or most of them in sequence as part of the heavy, but let's go over them one by one. So you've obviously got the initial hit, and then you have got the, whatever this is called, talons or something. It'll be on the screen. But the second part of Wolfang Fist that you can activate by just pressing light or medium, either one works. And this doesn't add a whole lot of damage. However, it's very useful in timing certain setups. Like if you want to combo out of Wolfang Fist and you want to time an assist, that second part of the Wolfang Fist will give you plenty of time to call out an assist ahead of time and set up whatever it is you're trying to do next. Next up, we have the finisher. And so there's 2 ways to do this finisher. You can actually do it whenever you want by pressing forward and light or forward and medium. Alternatively, if you just keep mashing light or medium, it'll just automatically happen after the second part of Wolfang Fist. And then we have the back and forward steps. And so there are a bunch of different ways to use these back and forward steps. So let me quickly demonstrate. So if you want to cross up your opponent with Wolfang Fist and apply a second left-right mix-up in addition to the medium one, you can press just S. And you can do this at any part as long as you haven't finished it yet. So you can do it after the second part of the Rekka as well. Additionally, if you want to sort of make yourself safe, like let's say you let's say that you do Wolfing Fist on block. You can press back and S to perform a kind of back step that, I mean, all of the follow-ups to Wolfing Fist are already safe on block, and the finisher does already create quite a bit of space. But if you just want to make yourself a little bit extra safe, you can perform that back step and create that space while being at a little bit less of a disadvantage. You're still minus here, I believe. Actually, I'm not sure what the frame rate on this is. I know for a fact that you're minus if you do the full finisher, but the back step, you might actually have a slight advantage there, but at any rate, there's not much that either one of these players can do out of the situation. So they just sort of reset the situation to neutral with the back step, as opposed to being at a disadvantage with the finisher. Additionally, there's some other cocky stuff that you can do with this back step. So let me, if you press S again after performing the back step, you do this. And you do a front step right back in. And while at first this may look like some kind of a weird fake out, this actually has a lot of practical use. So the very first application that comes to mind is, I mentioned earlier that if your Wolfing Fist gets guarded, this cross behind option is fake. It's jabbable. However, if you were to do it on hit, that frame traps quite well. And so if you want to frame trap but stay in front to throw your opponent off, if you've been getting a little bit too predictable with this, you can perform that back step. And sort of manually frame trap into whatever part of Wolfing Fist, the second or third part, on purpose in front. And so that's why that back step and a back step cancel comes in handy. And then you saw, by accident, I actually got ahead of myself a little bit. And you can actually perform the follow-ups after the back step. It lets you do these in literally any sequence. And the only time Wolfing Fist ends is when you do that finisher. And so that may seem a little bit useless. Like, what am I going to do from way back here? However, this is actually the only way to apply some sort of a frame trap out of Wolfing Fist on block without calling an assist. And so if your Wolfing Fist gets blocked, but you still want to apply a little bit of extra pressure, what you can do, and you have to input this a little bit quickly, you can do Wolfing Fist and then backstep and then go immediately into the finisher. And that will actually catch your opponent if they're trying to jab out or anything like that, because obviously nothing will reach here. The only way that you can get out of that is if you were to, say, deflector level 3. And so that's actually a pretty safe way to not only keep yourself safe and create distance, but also apply like a tiny frame trap to the end of your Wolfing Fist there. So in addition to the Wolfing Fist finisher, there is an alternative finisher that you can use by pressing heavy. And again, this works at any point in the Wolfing Fist, as long as you don't do it before the after the finisher, rather. And this does the exact same amount of damage as the standard finisher, except it comes out faster, and it knocks the opponent straight up into the air, which is ideal for extending combos. And this has a lot of utility. Again, I was mentioning that the meterless cross up there is totally fake and interruptible. However, if you time it right and if you use the metered finisher, you can actually do something like, or, and that will actually be uninterruptible. Not with a jab, at least. And it's possible to mess up the timing there and get yourself jabbed out, but if you do it as fast as possible, then 100% that is a real mix-up on block. So if you're willing to spend the meter, that is actually a pretty rewarding way to do so with Yamcha. Alright, so let's talk about some of the weird aspects and shortcomings of Wolfing Fist. And the very blatant thing that I want to talk about is the scaling on this move. So with heavy Wolfing Fist, you don't have to worry about it. It works like a normal special move. The entire sequence only counts with one hit of scaling. So even if I were to say vanish after this, that vanish does 90% of its normal damage. So that's normal scaling. That's how it should work. However, if I were to do, let's go ahead and quickly demonstrate. The finisher normally does 1200 damage if you reset into it. If I were to do it out of just the first part of Wolfang Fist, you'll notice that's way less damage. That's 60% of the normal damage that the finisher does, just after the initial 5 hits. And those initial 5 hits, they scale like per hit almost, rather than just as one special move. And then there's some weird properties to the second part of Wolfang Fist as well. And let me quickly demonstrate that. So the second part, even if I reset into it, even resetting into it and starting a new combo with that that second part of Wolfang Fist, the pack attack, that'll scale your combo down to 30% on the finisher. And that's awful. And then if I do them in sequence, it still scales to 30%. So that pack attack just has this auto property on it where it scales your combos down to 30%. However, if I were to combo into the Wolfang Fist, then it'll still add on, it'll still aggregate the amount of scaling from the previous hits. So you'll see there I got 25% scaling. And so it does this weird scaling thing that I haven't quite figured out the formula for, but it basically, it's never worth it to combo out of Wolfang Fist if you connect with the whole thing. You almost always want to reset into the finisher, because that will count towards one hit, and if you vanish after that, it will actually just scale normally, and your next hit will do 90%. And there's also one really weird property, and that's that you can actually change the timing of how you do the first part of Wolfang Fist into the second. So you see I've been doing this delayed input, and Yamcha just sort of stops, and then I continue with the Rekka. However, you can just cancel the first part of Wolfang Fist into the second, and it does actually like a different canceled version of Hack Attack. And do you notice the amount of damage that I just did? When I canceled into the pack attack, I actually got extra scaling. So that's 25% damage that I just did on that finisher. So I don't know why you would ever actually want to do the fast version of that pack attack. But that's just a thing that you can do, and it just does way more damage and less scaling if you just delay it a little bit. So you want to avoid that, unless you specifically want to do the fast version for some kind of like assist setup. Like I know when I was testing assists with, like, say, Piccolo from full screen, the timing would be beneficial there if I were to do the faster one. But otherwise, just know about that and avoid that. Some other interesting quirks. So I mentioned that you should reset if you want to get good damage out of Wolfang Fist. However, if you try to reset with the flash rather than the finisher, what'll end up happening is that even though you're trying to actively reset, it'll combo because the flash is actually too fast to frame trap there. And I'm not sure if there's a way to delay this enough to actually make it reset. Yeah, you can. So if you were to try and reset with that finisher, you've got to get that timing down, because it's very easy to accidentally do that too fast. So yeah, it's just another thing to keep in mind. So I've already pointed out how you can create a frame trap on hit by using either the S option or the backdash and then forward dash, the back step, forward step, which would be back S and then S. However, what you do not have to commit to that finisher. If you want to open yourself up a little bit for counter hit, but get a little bit better of a reward for less damage, for less meter, what you can do is delay just a little bit and then go into some jabs instead of the Gale Claw's finish. The Wolfang Fist finisher. And unfortunately, if you delay this much, you're sort of relieving your frame trap. You're becoming jabbable again. However, if it's a little bit of risk reward that you can employ to, if you want that little bit of extra damage and you don't have any meter to spare. And next up, let's talk about something that's pretty important. And I mentioned at the beginning of the video that these mix-ups between Wolfang Fist and medium Wolfang Fist, and of course the cross-up they're very fake. These are all jabbable on block. However, if you use assists wisely, you can make this a very real and very scary mix-up. And so I've already picked Trunks here, but this works with anybody with those quick low hit stun assists, like Trunks, like Nappa, like Majin Buu. Anybody who will come in, do a quick hit, and keep the opponent in hit stun just long enough to make you not... What you want something that specifically has low hit stun, because you don't want all of this to be a true block string. Because if it is, then cross-up protection will activate, and they can block it no matter what they're doing. What you want is to make yourself just plus enough that you can frame trap into this option by going behind. And so what we're going to do is we're going to call Trunks here. We're going to do our basic string. And as you can see, Trunks came in, he did his change the future, and I went behind. And let me quickly demonstrate that here. Let's try it one more time. There we go, I timed it perfectly that time. So as you can see, I'm just going to hold down back, and it does cross me up. And so what Trunks is doing there, and let's try just jabbing this time. Yeah, I can't jab out of it either, because Trunks is creating a frame trap there for me. And so what that does is it not only makes the mix-up into a really good, strong frame trap, what it does is it also, Trunks, as you can see here, he kind of obscures the screen, which makes it hard to see which way you're coming from. And of course, if you want to do the forward option, what you do is instead of canceling into the medium Wolfang Fist, you can just dash forward and then go into a 2 medium. So let me quickly demonstrate that as well. Alright, and then I'll quickly demonstrate. Try to jab after I get block the change the future. And as you can see, I get the counter hit even if I'm mashing jab. Okay, so I've demonstrated the way to make yourself safe on this left-right mix-up by calling one of these explosive fast type assists, like Trunks, Nappa, and I believe 16 are the assists that work best for this. However, I've yet to demonstrate the way to make this second mix-up safe. And so I've set the training dummy here to apply both of these mix-ups using both assists. It's got Trunks and Nappa, and so they work in any order. I've just set them up, however. So let me go ahead and play it. So as you can see, it crossed me up the first time and called the assist to make it safe, and then crossed me up the second time, called the assist once again. So I'm gonna try and jab out of either one of these setups just to make sure that they're real. So that's the first one. Oh. And that's the second. So they both are very real cross-ups. And of course, they, as I mentioned earlier, as I demonstrated, they do have options to stay in front. So these are pretty as close to as you can get to left-right 50-50s as you can in this game, pretty much. And of course, because of the explosive assists, they are very hard to see and very ambiguous. Another interesting, weird, actually, I shouldn't say interesting, this is an annoying aspect of Wolfang Fist, is that a lot of times when you are going for the backstep option to make yourself safe, what'll end up happening is you'll press back S once, but Yamcha will still do the forward step follow-up. And I have no idea what causes this. At first I thought it was negative edge, but the game doesn't have negative edge. If you try to input something using specifically negative edge, where you use the let go of the release of the button press to input a special move, it doesn't work. And so, and I even verified that it wasn't negative edge by holding back and the S button. But for some reason, even if you were to hold back and S and not let go ever, you still sometimes get that backstep. And I am just completely dumbfounded as to what causes this. It genuinely may just be a random aspect to his Wolfing Fist that you're not guaranteed to get that safe backstep, but that would be weird considering that every part of Wolfing Fist, including the finisher, is safe on block. So I'm not really sure why that happens. If you know, please let me know, by all means. I would love to know the mechanical explanation for why this backstep just sometimes doesn't work. Like, I don't know if it has something to do with how you handle the inputs. But yeah, sometimes that backstep just won't work. Alright, let's get talking about Yamcha's supers. So, his level 1 is the Spirit Ball.
Spirit Ball!
And what the Spirit Ball is, it's a move that you can control. The first hit does, like, the majority of the damage, does 1,300 damage, and then each follow-up hit does the remaining, I think it's, what, 700? Let's go ahead and match it out real quick and see what the total is. Yeah, it's a total of 2,000, so the latter matched out parts do a relatively small amount of damage, but the real novelty in Spirit Ball, and the reason why this is an amazing level 1, is because you can actually control the motion of the Spirit Ball for the 5 follow-up hits. And the way that you do that is you hold any direction and press, I believe it's any button. Any button should work. Yeah, pretty much any button works except for the assist buttons, obviously. But I'll go ahead and say light for the sake of making it easier to talk about. But so the way that it works is the very first hit will always fly to the right, and then you can control out of 8 directions, up, down, left, right, or the diagonals, which way you want it to go next, and you cannot have the Spirit Ball go in the same direction twice in a row. That's the only rule. If you do try to hold the same direction and make the Spirit Ball go in that direction twice, it'll just go in the opposite direction and then continue on in a back and forth pattern. So if I were to hold back and mash it, it would just go back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. And this isn't just a novelty, it is actually extraordinarily useful. Using this method, depending on what pattern you use, you can send the you can control the opponent's screen. You can manipulate where the opponent ends up. For starters, you can have them end up in the air and then do something like a swap reset, or you can send them into a spike. You can spike them down to the ground and give yourself a bit more frame advantage, or the most useful thing you can do is spike them down diagonally and send them into a very brief sliding animation, the same kind of sliding animation that you would get if you got a hard knockdown, which means that you can follow up with, it's almost the same, it's a little bit lower, which means that you can follow up with a level 3. And that's extraordinarily useful because that's sort of the fact that Yamcha can combo his level 1 into his level 3, and he can do this from anywhere on the screen, mind you, makes him actually a viable anchor. He has the ability, despite his low solo meterless damage, he has the ability to put away 4 bars of meter in a practical, very efficient combo. And let me quickly demonstrate to you the pattern that works best for this. So there's 2 different patterns. Well, there's 2 or 3 different patterns that you want to use depending on your distance, but there's one that works most consistently for me. And let me quickly call it out before I try it. It's going to be back, up, back, down, back. And I'll write that on the screen for you. But using this sequence with the right rhythm will allow you to confirm a full screen level 1 Spirit Ball into a level 3. So let's go ahead and quickly give that a try. Bear with me if I don't get it my first try.
Spirit Ball! Nice! Whoopsie! Ready for this? Neo will bang this!
The timing there is very tight, but it is possible.
Whoopsie! Spirit Ball! Neo will bang this!
There it is.
What?
And of course, the closer you are, the easier this is going to be, because the less time that Neo Wolfing Fist has to spend traveling, the less tight the window for actually connecting it is. But so yeah, you can see there I just spent 4 bars and I got a total of 3,500 damage, which is not brilliant for a raw connection with with a raw connection of his level 1 into his level 3. And that's because of the order in which we did it. The level 1 scaled the least and the level 3 scaled the most. But in the context of a combo where you're going to be at max scaling regardless, that level 1 to level 3 setup actually does do a very good amount of damage. So that's the combo path that you want to use if you are at full screen, or if you're mid-screen and the positioning doesn't really matter. If you've got the opponent cornered, you want to use a slightly different pattern. And the reason for that is if you use that same pattern, you'll still be able to connect into level 3, but you'll lose the corner positioning, which is not ideal. So in the corner, you want to do something a lot simpler. You want to do just left, right, left, and then up, and then spike down and forward. So back, forward, back, up, down, forward. That's the pattern that you want to use. So let's go ahead and give that a try here.
Spirit ball! Neo Wolf What's going on?
And that'll accomplish the exact same thing without giving up your screen positioning. So those are basically the only two patterns that you have to concern yourself with learning for Yamcha Spirit Ball. And of course, I've been going over it. I've been doing it a lot, but I should also briefly mention his Neo Wolfang Fist. Just your typical level 3. It is fully invincible, just like every other level 3, and it does a good, respectable amount of damage.
Now you have to deal with me.
And it's actually better than most level 3s because a lot of level 3s in the game are Ki Blasts. They are giant beam specials. And the benefit of having a strike type level 3 is that you can do this on reaction to another super or level 3, and none of the hits of your level 3 will actually clash or diminish because of the fact that you're doing it in reaction to another super. So let's say I have, right now it's Trunks, but let's say I'm up against Vegeta and he pulls a random Final Flash. I can do a reaction Neo Wolfang Fist, and it will pass right through his Final Flash in his direction. So this is actually like on the better side of level 3s, and it actually does a very good amount of damage. It does more damage than most Ki Blast specials will. I think Trunks is a little bit more damaging, his Heat Dome. But it is a very, very usable level 3. So if you do not have any other obvious anchor type characters on your team, like say Teen Gohan, Adult Gohan, or either of the Blues with those level 5 supers, then Yamcha will absolutely work as an anchor on your team if you need him. Alright, so before I go into combo stuff, let's quickly go ahead and conclude with the evaluation of Yamcha's positioning on your team. So, honestly, Yamcha kind of works no matter where you put him on the team. If you have good assists to back him up, like Trunks is a good assist, Nappa's a good assist, as I mentioned, as you saw earlier, and there are a couple other ones that allow him to do his left-right mix-ups pretty cleanly and safely. Additionally, Vegeta's always a good assist for obvious reasons. You can use his assist to extend combos just really, really well. If you have him paired with good assists that are designed for Yamcha, then absolutely put him in front, and he will do a lot of work. Otherwise, if you have no anchors, like I mentioned earlier, Teen Gohan, Adult Gohan, or the Blues are the characters that stand out to me as being particularly good anchors. Frieza can also work as a really good anchor. Then if you have none of them on your team and you just want somebody to throw in the back who can do a lot of work and who can convert meter to damage efficiently, then Yamcha will do the trick. If you already have a good anchor and you have a point that you'd rather use, like say 18 or 16, that you want out in front, then by all means you can stick Yamcha in the middle of your team, and his assist will shine there as well. So Yamcha really just works anywhere, and depending on it depends on the makeup of your team as to where you should put him, basically. But he is basically a good addition to almost any team that you could think of. And it's godsend that he actually works like that, because of the fact that a lot of people are going to want to use him on their team strictly because of that assist, which is so nice to have. Alright, so before I just go into full combo demonstration mode, let's quickly talk a little bit about Yamcha's assist extension potential. So I mentioned earlier that Yamcha has the unique ability to extend combos with assists more effectively than a lot of the other characters on the cast because of the fact that he can reground himself so quickly. So let's quickly demonstrate what I mean by that, and let's use Super Saiyan Vegeta as an example, because he has pretty much inarguably the best combo extension assist in the game right now. So let's show you what Yamcha can get using this assist.
It's on now.
So yeah, you can see there, not only can Yamcha plant his feet on the ground, but he actually has enough time there to get an extra 2H in his combo. And Yamcha's down heavy actually does a lot of damage. It counts for 2 full heavy hits. And so that actually adds a lot to your meterless combo there. Again, the same style of assist combo can be done with pretty much anybody except for like Beerus, the Blues, Piccolo, or Krillin. The only difference is that you get a little bit less damage off of the extension. So let's quickly demonstrate what I mean. With Trunks, I can do the exact same idea. However, once I plant my feet on the ground, I have to super dash instead of being able to connect with that down heavy.
Dang it! You're not going anywhere.
So as you can see, using Trunks, I wasn't able to get that that down heavy, but I still, and I lost like almost 500 damage for it. But the assist extension still does work just as well. You get a lot of extra corner carry by using the assist, and you get something like 400 more damage than Yamcha would normally be able to get meterless. And you also get, needless to say, you get a lot more meter gain. You can see I built way over a bar with that combo, so it's definitely worth it to extend combos with characters that aren't Super Saiyan Vegeta if you have them not on cooldown. So let me quickly go over the timing for these particular assist combos, and I'll try to do my best to denote exactly where to press the assist button in the inputs that I'll display for these particular assist combos. But let me quickly go ahead and try to explain it verbally for these two while I can. And so for the slower Vegeta assist, the timing with which you should be pressing the assist button for this particular combo is to hit it at the exact same time as you're pressing the jab before the dive kick. So that's the third jab, the third light in the air strings. So let me quickly demonstrate that.
Hey, Vegeta! Not going anywhere. Saw that coming.
Okay, so you can see there, I pressed it almost exactly at the same time as the jab, and that made it work pretty consistently. For the faster assists like Trunks, you want to press the assist button at the exact same time as the dive kick, and it just luckily happens to time itself out that way. So let me quickly demonstrate that one.
Not going anywhere. Saw that coming.
So those are both pretty straightforward, and you can do this same basic kind of assist combo for a lot of the cast. I mentioned earlier the assists that are very similar to Trunks, like Nappa and Frieza. I mean, not Frieza, but Nappa, 16, Fat Boo. This might actually work with Frieza, but basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you all of the basic general different types of assist extension combos that you can get with Yamcha, as well as the kinds of combos that he can get meterless. And I will write down assist in the combo when you should be pressing the assist button. If you see a little tilde, that means that there's no clean time when you should be doing. That means that you should be pressing the assist sort of as a plink after or before a button, and that just means that pressing it at the same time will actually cause the combo not to work. But hopefully you'll get the picture from these inputs. But without further ado, let me go ahead and move on to the combo demonstration part of the video. So enjoy. Thank you so much for watching. My name has been Mountlover. If you want to see me do another one of these character guides, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments section below who you want me to do a guide on next. Additionally, if you want, you can check out my Twitch channel where I'll be streaming all of my ranked runs, starting from 0 LP. Every single one of my ranked expeditions will be on stream, so be sure to check that out. Thank you so much once again. I'll see you guys next time.